Before we begin, a brief content warning. This episode contains references to violence against children and sexual abuse. Some of the details may be distressing for certain listeners. Please take care of yourself. In the previous episode, we examined the first police interviews, focusing particularly on how Andersen's explanations repeatedly shifted whenever he was confronted with new witness statements or evidence. He also made several claims that didn't hold up under scrutiny. Meanwhile, the police had strong suspicion regarding Kristiansen. They reopened an old peeping case to gather more evidence, and what they found only seemed to reinforce their existing picture of him. When the result came back from a DNA test on a hair found at the scene, a pubic hair, it was confirmed to belong to Andersen. This finally gave the police strong enough evidence to make an arrest. But it wasn't just Andersen who was taken in. The police also arrested Kristiansen. They chose to apprehend both boys simultaneously, convinced that both boys were involved, and fearing that crucial evidence might be lost if only one were detained. And when the boys were arrested, only one of them confessed almost immediately. The boy who confessed was Andersen. After his arrest, Andersen gave a new version of events, a completely different account of what allegedly happened that evening. For the first time, he offered an unreserved confession, admitting that he had been involved in what happened to the girls that night. Kristiansen, on the other hand, continued to deny any involvement in the crimes. Kristiansen's family were initially shocked when they heard about the arrest. Their first thought was that the police would not have taken him if he weren't involved. It was only after speaking to Kristiansen himself, who firmly maintained his innocence, that they began to change their minds. They believed him. He first told his mother, who was initially the only family member allowed to visit him. Later, when his father was also permitted to see him, he too became convinced of Kristiansen's innocence. He advised his son not to let himself be pressured into confessing to something he hadn't done. Kristiansen's brother also came to believe him. Called in by the police to describe his brother, he said Kristiansen was highly moody, capable of switching from cheerful to furious in an instant. Most often, it was their father who bore the brunt of these mood swings. On one occasion, Kristiansen had thrown a knife at their father, though fortunately he missed. On other occasions, he would fling knives into the ceiling just to see if they would stick. Later, the family came to understand that much of Kristiansen's moodiness stemmed from ADHD, and they believed it was something he would outgrow. They described him as someone capable of foolish acts, but also fundamentally honest. If confronted with a mistake, he would admit it. Then, back to Andersen's confession. This time, Andersen told the police that he had gone to the car park to meet other Home Guard youth for a training session. He waited for a while, but when no one else showed up, he decided to take a walk around Black Lake. It was then that Kristiansen allegedly arrived on his bike. They had not planned to meet. Kristiansen supposedly asked Andersen if he wanted to go for a walk in Baneheia, since Andersen was already there to train and the other youths hadn't arrived. He agreed. This conversation was said to have taken place near the entrance gate at the car park, where Kristiansen left his bike. Andersen claimed he was certain Kristiansen had his mobile phone with him on the walk, a detail to remember for later. He went on to describe the route they took, explaining that they had been looking for places to pitch a tent. While doing this, they reportedly came across the girls on a path. They stopped and spoke with them. According to Andersen, Kristiansen asked the girls if they would help move some kittens. The older girl supposedly agreed, on one condition, that she could help carry them. Kristiansen led the way, and the others followed. They walked into the woods, where Andersen said Kristiansen pulled out a knife and threatened the girls, telling them to undress. Kristiansen then ordered the older girl to sit on the ground and tied a piece of clothing around her head. He then took the younger girl a few meters away, removed his trousers and assaulted her. Andersen claimed he did not witness this, having sat down and turned away when he realized what was about to happen. After Kristiansen finished with the younger girl, he blindfolded her as well and did the same to the older girl. Again, Andersen said he turned away, though he knew what was happening. He then described how Kristiansen led the older girl over to the younger one and stabbed her in the throat, then the stomach. Andersen said he reacted, rushing over and pushing Kristiansen, asking frantically what he was doing. Kristiansen then pressed the knife to Andersen's stomach and threatened him, saying if he didn't kill the younger girl, he would kill them both. Kristiansen then handed the knife to Andersen. Andersen says he didn't want to do it, but did so anyway out of fear. He admitted to stabbing the younger girl in the throat and claimed responsibility for her death. When asked why he had simply not discarded the knife, he said he hadn't thought that far ahead. Afterwards, Kristiansen dragged the older girl a short distance, then asked Andersen to help him move the younger one. They tried to cover the bodies with branches, which Andersen says he had cut himself. They took the girls' belongings with them when they left, pushing them into the dam where they were found. Kristiansen had taken the bag with them, crumpling it up and stuffing it into a trouser pocket. After this, they went their separate ways. Later that evening, as Andersen has told the police in previous interviews, they met again outside Kristiansen's house. The police searched both boys' homes. Kristiansen's room is tidy, Andersen's is extremely messy. Meanwhile, the media begin portraying their shared hangout, known as the Shed, as the base for a twisted fantasy world. Kristiansen continues to deny involvement in the rapes and murders, sticking to his version of events. Both boys stay in custody for 8 weeks. Just over a week later, during another police interview, Andersen reveals something new, though this time it isn't related to the Baneheia case. He tells the police about an incident that took place around 4 years earlier, when he and Kristiansen had been playing cops and robbers with some local children aged between 6 and 10. Andersen claims that he saw Kristiansen alone with one of the girls, a small child, standing on top of a rubbish bin, naked from the waist down. When Kristiansen noticed he had been seen, he allegedly chased after Andersen and threatened him, warning him not to tell anyone what he had witnessed. Kristiansen has previously denied ever having abused anyone, but when confronted with this story, he admits to the offense. At the time, he himself was 15 or 16 years old. Kristiansen's brother later described this behavior as typical of him. He had a temper and could act foolishly, but if confronted, he would always admit what he had done. Andersen's accounts are inconsistent. Across 13 police interviews during the period in which he is a suspect, his story changes repeatedly. He keeps adding new details to the route they are taking before the murders. One addition includes a stop at a swimming area, where he claims they had supposedly watched the girls, but the story doesn't add up. He maintains that they had left the car park at 1810. The swimming spot is about a 10-minute walk from there. According to Andersen, they went directly to the location, meaning they would have arrived at around 1820. However, the girls did not leave home until 1830. What Andersen describes simply could not have happened. This is far from the only discrepancy in his statements. We'll see more of these inconsistencies later. When confronted with the fact that the pubic hair found at the crime scene matched him, Andersen once again alters his story. In his initial confession, he said that he and the girls had followed Kristiansen all the way to the scene. But when asked to explain the presence of the pubic hair, he claims that part of his story wasn't entirely accurate. According to this new version, Kristiansen and the girls had gone ahead, while Andersen had stopped to urinate at the location where the girls' bodies were later hidden, and that this must have been the source of the hair. In other words, he hadn't walked with the others the whole way, but caught up with them afterwards. There's just one problem. The hair wasn't found at the hiding spot, but at the actual crime scene. When asked if he might be mistaken, Andersen insists he's not. He says he had urinated at the hiding spot, not at the crime scene. Several more DNA samples are sent to a laboratory in Spain for further analysis. On 26th of October, the police go public, confirming to the media that the results have returned and that they link Kristiansen to both the assaults and the murders. Headlines such as "Police confident in DNA evidence against Kristiansen" begin appearing everywhere. From this point on, Kristiansen is in many ways already being treated as guilty. When asked if they need a confession from him to proceed, the police reply that it isn't necessary. They already have conclusive evidence against both boys. When Kristiansen is informed of the DNA results, he shakes his head, claiming he now realizes they are trying to trick him. He refuses to attend any further interviews, steadfastly maintaining his innocence. As for Andersen, when presented with new evidence, he adjusts his account once more. He is confronted with the fact that his DNA has been found on one of the girls, and his explanation changes accordingly. He now admits that he had committed an assault, contradicting his previous statements. He claims that Kristiansen had threatened to kill him if he didn't participate. Andersen insists that he had only touched the girl for a second, while Kristiansen stood nearby grinning. He believes the girl he had assaulted was the older one. But there's a problem. The DNA did not link him to the older girl, it linked him to the younger one. When the police confront him with this fact, he still insists it had been the older girl. He repeats his claim several times over an extended period. It isn't until a month later, in the final interview before the case is sent to the prosecution, that he changes his account. He is told that his DNA, in the form of semen, is found on the younger girl, alongside a sample matching Kristiansen's DNA on both girls. The police explain that this suggests two people had assaulted the younger girl and asked for his response. Andersen then acknowledges that it must have been the younger girl he had assaulted. The pieces fall into place. Kristiansen alone had assaulted the older girl, and both boys had assaulted the younger one. The case is now set to proceed to trial, with convictions for both sexual abuse and murder pending.